Good evening and welcome to
Recording
the
in
Tuesday,
progress.
October 15th, 2024 regular business meeting of the Olympia City Council. For the record, we have a quorum with Councilmember Gilman and Mayor excused, and Mayor Pro Tem Nguyen will be joining us remotely momentarily. So with that, I need a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of the agenda signify by saying aye.
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 We have an agenda. So our first item this evening, item 1C, is consideration of a resolution expressing City Council opposition to Washington State Ballot Initiative number 2109, repealing Washington State's excise tax imposed on the sale or exchange of certain long-term capital assets by individuals who have annual capital gains of over $250,000. And here to present this evening is our Assistant City Manager, Debbie Sullivan. Hi, Debbie.
Mayor and Council. Debbie Sullivan, Assistant City Manager, and tonight Council is considering a resolution opposing initiative number 2109, which would repeal an excise tax imposed on the sale or exchange of certain long-term capital assets by individuals who have annual capital gains of over $250,000. Before opening the public hearing, I will share information regarding this initiative, which comes from the approved explanatory statement prepared by the Washington State Attorney General. In 2021, the legislature passed a law creating a tax on the sale or exchange of certain long-term capital assets, commonly referred to as a capital gains tax. The capital gains tax applies to only some types of capital assets held for longer than a year, such as stocks, bonds, precious metals, or artwork. The tax does not apply to the sale of certain assets, including real estate, retirement savings accounts or deferred compensation accounts, cattle, horses, or breeding livestock if more than 50% of the taxpayer's income is from farming or ranching. Property tax that is depreciable or that is treated as an expense under identified federal state laws, timber or timberland, including sales of timber or timberland that result in dividends or distributions from real estate investment trusts, certain commercial fishing privileges, and goodwill received from the qualifying sale of an auto dealership. The capital gains tax allows an annual standard deduction of $250,000 for each taxpayer, which means that a tax applies only to taxpayers who make capital gains over $250,000 in any tax year. For spouses and domestic partners, the combined standard deduction is limited to $250,000, regardless of whether they file joint or separate returns. The tax rate is 7% for covered gains. So for example, if a person bought $150,000 worth of stock and sold it 10 years later for $500,000, they would have a net gain of $350,000. The first $250,000 of that gain would be exempt from tax, and the taxpayer would owe 7% tax on the remaining $100,000 of gain for a total capital gains tax due of $7,000. The first $500 million collected from the capital gains tax each year is deposited into the Education Legacy Trust account, which supports K-12 education, expands access to higher education, provides funding for early learning and child care programs. Any amounts collected above $500 million are applied to the Common School Construction account, which funds the construction of facilities for common schools. Initiative measure number 2109 would repeal the capital gains tax law. Washington State would no longer impose taxes on the sale or exchange of long-term capital assets, and this would eliminate the funding collected from the tax that currently goes to K-12 education, higher education, early learning, child care, and school construction. That concludes my presentation, and I'll turn it over to the mayor to open the public hearing.
Thank you so much, Debbie. So it looks like we have two community members signed up this evening for comments for the public hearing. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing pursuant to RCW 42.17A.555 on State Initiative Measure Number 2109, which concerns repealing Washington State's excise tax imposed on the sale or exchange of certain long-term capital assessments by individuals who have annual capital gains of over $250,000. So at this time, I'd like to call forward Yona Mikowski for comments. Please be advised that you have 3 minutes for your comments, and please state your name for the record.
Okay, Yona Mikowski. Good evening, members of the Olympia City Council. I'm a retired state employee. My last 16 years of employment was with the House of Representatives, where I worked on budget and tax issues. I'm here this evening to ask you to approve Resolution 24-0757. As this resolution lays out, in 2021, state lawmakers passed a tax on extraordinary profits from the sale of essentially stocks and bonds. This capital gains tax, which exempts real estate and retirement accounts, makes our state tax code more equitable and provides critical funding to state programs. Washington has an upside-down tax code, with the poorest paying the largest share of their income in taxes, while the wealthiest pay the least. Since this tax was passed, we went from being the most regressive tax system in the state to the 49th most regressive tax in the country, but at least it's an improvement. Black, Hispanic, and Native American households have the highest representation among the lowest 20% of income earners and the lowest representation among the highest earners. Therefore, people of color, on average, are taxed at a much higher rate than white people. Eliminating the capital gains tax will further exacerbate this situation. Initiative 2109 will cut billions from K-12 education, higher education, school construction, early learning, and childcare, worsening the childcare and school funding crises all over the state, including Olympia. Now, why should a local government official like you care about continuing the capital gains tax? Capital gains revenues supported the increase of 258 new child care slots in Thurston County in fiscal year 2023, and also supported several school construction projects. We need to support businesses in our community with workers who are educated and workers who have available quality childcare. We need to take action today so our children and grandchildren's future in Olympia are secure. Thank you again, and I urge you to support this resolution. Any questions?
None. Thank you
Okay,
very much,
thank
Ms.
you.
Mikowski. Okay, so that takes us to our remote public commenter this evening. We have Mr. Jim Lazar online.
Mr. Lazar is traveling.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. This initiative sets a new record for self-serving use of the initiative process. Brian Haywood is a hedge fund operator who moved to Washington from California to get away from California taxes. So by moving to a no-income tax state, Haywood was initially able to avoid California's taxes on the money he gets from his hedge fund. Now, Washington is still a no-income tax state. But under federal law, hedge fund operators get special treatment. Their income, even though they receive it every year, is called carried interest and is taxed as the capital gains rate, a preferential rate of income tax under federal law. A bill to change that to make hedge fund folks pay like you and I pay failed in Congress 2 years ago, came up one vote short. So while Washington still has no income tax, it now does have a relatively new capital gains tax, and that caught Brian Haywood. So he invested $5 million of his money in the signature drive to putting these measures before the legislature, and in the case of the two initiatives on tonight's agenda, before the voters. The initiative process should not be used for a wealthy man to rewrite the tax code to save him some money. I hope that ordinary voters will recognize that they are almost 100% unlikely to ever encounter this millionaire tax. It affects a tiny fraction of the people in the state of Washington, only a few thousand out of 7+ million. I strongly urge the City Council to adopt this resolution opposing Initiative 2109, and I urge the voters of Olympia to vote no, 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 and no on the 4 initiatives that appear on the ballot that I received a few days ago, and I've already voted, and I hope everyone votes soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lazar. So it is standard practice during a public hearing that even if you didn't have an opportunity to sign up to speak for the hearing, we open it up for anyone who is present in the chambers who wishes to state their position in the hearing this evening. So is there anyone in the chambers that wishes to approach the podium for comment on Initiative 2109? Going once. Going twice. Okay, seeing none, at this time I'm going to close the public hearing on Initiative Measure 2109. Okay, so at this time I'd like to entertain a motion.
So before you tonight, Mayor, are 2 options. 1, to approve the resolution opposing Initiative 2109, which repeals the capital gains tax law, and 2, to not approve the resolution opposing Initiative 2109.
Thank you very much, Debbie.
Move approval.
Second.
So it's been motioned and second to approve the resolution opposing initiative number 2109, which repeals the Washington's excise tax imposed on sale or exchange of certain long-term capital assets by individuals who have annual capital gains of over $250,000. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so that takes us to item 1D, which is the consideration of a resolution expressing City Council opposition to Washington State Ballot Initiative number 2124, amending state law to provide that employees and self-employed people must elect to keep long-term care coverage under RCW 50B.04 and could opt out at any time to repeal current law governing exemptions for employees who had purchased long-term care insurance before November 1st, 2021. And here to present also for this hearing is our Assistant City Manager, Debbie Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For the record, I'm still Debbie Sullivan, Assistant City Manager. Tonight, Council is considering approval of a resolution opposing Initiative number 2124, which amends state law to provide that employees and self-employed people must elect to keep long-term care. Before opening the public hearing, I will share information regarding this initiative, which comes from the approved explanatory statement prepared by the Washington State Attorney General. Washington Care's long-term care insurance provides people who meet its requirement up to $36,500, plus increases based on inflation, to pay for certain long-term care services such as nursing care facilities, funded through mandatory contributions for most employees in Washington. Employers must deduct 0.58% of an employee's wages, and participation is mandatory for most full-time, part-time, or temporary employees. Payroll deductions started on July 1st, 2023. I think I'm ahead of myself. Federal employees, employees of federally recognized tribes, and those who are self-employed do not participate in the long-term care insurance program, but they may choose to participate. Certain employees may apply for voluntary exemptions from participation, which includes veterans with service-connected disabilities, spouses or registered domestic partners of active duty military members, temporary workers on a non-immigrant visa, workers whose permanent address is outside Washington, and employees who acquired private long-term care insurance before November 2021. Participants must contribute for a minimum number of years to be eligible to apply for benefits, at least 10 years without a gap of 5 or more consecutive years. 3 of the last 6 years before the date a person applies for benefits. A person born before 1968 may receive partial benefits based on the number of years they contributed to the program. The long-term care insurance benefit is available to individuals who need assistance with 3 activities of daily living and are at least 18 years old. Benefits under this program become available on July 1st, 2026. Sorry. Initiative measure number 2124 does not specify the timing or process for employees or self-employed persons to either elect to keep coverage or opt out of the program. If approved by voters, it would give the Employment Security Department authority to adopt rules to implement the measure's requirements. And that concludes my presentation, and I'll turn it over to the mayor to open the public hearing.
Thank you again, Debbie. Okay, so it looks like we have 2 community members signed up this evening remotely to testify in a hearing this evening. So at this time, I'm going to open a public hearing on State Initiative Measure number 2124, which concerns amending state law to provide that employees and self-employed people must elect to keep long-term care coverage under RCW 50B.04 and could opt out at any time to repeal current law governing exemptions for employees who had purchased long-term care insurance before November 1st, 2021. The hearing is now opened, and I'd like to call forward Lisa Orenstein, followed by Jim Lazar.
Lisa's traveling.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Council. My name is Lisa Ornstein. I live in Olympia, and I am speaking on behalf of Judith Bendersky of Olympia, who could not be present. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to voting to oppose ballot initiative 2124. My name is Judith Bendersky. I'm a certified gerontologist, a certified Medicare advisor with the Office of the Insurance Commissioner, and a certified aging and disabilities resource information specialist. For 25 years, I've met with families and individuals who have discovered, sadly, that Medicare isn't going to cover costs for their long-term care needs. Many of them have had to spend down every last penny they worked hard all their lives to earn in order to go onto the state Medicaid program that we call Apple Health in Washington. People must spend down their assets and become nearly destitute to become eligible for Medicaid. And the stark reality is that, with almost no exceptions, long-term care insurance will be unaffordable and inaccessible to anyone who has received a traumatic medical diagnosis. Washington Cares which Initiative 2124 seeks to sabotage, is a brilliant remedy for this problem, in which working Washingtonians, with some exemptions, such as veterans, pay a tiny payroll amount which acts like an insurance premium, providing a cushion of up to $36,500 to pay for things that nearly all of us will need at some point, such as ramps or meal deliveries or short-term in-home care. Tonight, City Council has an opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to well-being for Olympia residents. It's also an opportunity to help address the gender pay gap. Jobs, or move away to take care of ill or disabled loved ones, are women. Please approve this resolution to oppose Initiative 2124. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ornstein. And up next, we have Jim Lazar.
Mr. Lazar is traveling.
Good evening again. As with other initiatives this election, voters are offered a false economic choice by Initiative 2124, a chance to save a few pennies now at a likely greater cost later. Like Social Security, WaCares asks Washington residents to stand together, pitch in a modest amount of their wages, and assure some additional stability for a growing segment of society, and perhaps for themselves later in life, when they are in need of long-term care, support, and services. Initiative 2124 would make the long-term care program unsustainable, denying many people needed funds later in life. The proponents have written that a yes vote will make WaCares voluntary and a no vote will keep the program as is. Unfortunately, that's misleading. Most analysts say that by making our state's long-term care program opt-in will cause a death spiral, ultimately bankrupting and killing the program. Millions of Washingtonians would be left without any long-term care coverage. I urge the City Council to adopt this resolution opposing Initiative 2124, and I urge the voters of Olympia to vote no, 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 and no on the 4 initiatives on the ballot that we've received this week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lazar. So as with the previous hearing at this time, I'd like to open it up to anyone in the chambers who wishes to approach the podium for comment to testify for ballot initiative 2124. Is there anyone in the chambers who would like to speak? Going once, going twice. At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing on initiative measure number 2124. Assistant City Manager Sullivan.
Yeah. Before you tonight are 2 options for council's consideration. One is to approve the resolution opposing Initiative 2124, and 2, to not approve the resolution opposing Initiative number 2124.
Thank you very much. So happy to entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resolution opposing Initiative 2124.
Second.
It's been motioned and second to approve the resolution opposing initiative 2124. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. So that takes us to our next agenda item this evening, item 2A, which is special recognition, which is our Water Resources Stewardship Calendar artist. And here to present this evening is Erin Conine, our Senior Program Specialist, and Susan McCleary, our Associate Planner. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening, Mayor Payne, council members. I'm Erin Conine, Senior Drinking Water Specialist in Public Works.
And I'm Susan McCleary, Associate Planner,
Public Works, Water Resources.
We are happy to be here to recognize the middle school students whose artwork was selected for our 2025 Water Resources Stewardship Through Art calendar. We have so much fun with this project, which helps us bring awareness to stormwater pollution prevention and water conservation best practices. For the contest, we developed key stewardship messages and solicited entries from public, private, and homeschooled middle schoolers in Olympia. After the artwork was selected, we added supplemental information to the key messages for each month. We are happy to have these students help us spread the word and want to thank everyone who participated.
Now it's our great pleasure to introduce each of the wonderful artists that were able to join us tonight. Students, please stand when I call your name. M.G. Healy for Don't Drip and Drive, Fix Vehicle Leaks. Ashton G. Brandenburg for Fix Leaky Faucets. Stella Schoenbacher for Only Rain Down the Storm Drain. Kieran Alexander for Install a Rain Barrel. Eponine Bertucci, Kenyon, for Bag and Trash Pet Waste. Mackenzie Roofing for Practice Bee-Friendly Yard Care. Vera Smith for Water Landscapes Early or Late. Alex Mole for Don't Drip and Drive, Fix Vehicle Leaks. Brooke Hensley for Don't Be a Hoser, Use a Broom instead. John Graham for Practice Bee-Friendly Yard Care. Morgan Schaefer for Don't Let the Water Run. Violet Marie George for Rake a Drain. Xavier Taiji for Take Shorter Showers. Thank you all for your contribution to our 2025 calendar. And calendars will be available at each of the middle schools. So if you didn't get enough for your family, feel free to grab some more. And there'll also be some here in the lobby here at City Hall. And now we'd just like to take a moment to get a photo with the council members.
Unless you have questions or comments.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Any questions or comments from the council? Councilmember Parsley.
Thank God we're back here again. I was worried about next year's calendar because it hangs in my office every year. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? I want to Mayor Pro Tem Nguyen.
Yeah, just quickly, I'll just, I know we're all probably feeling it on council, but just gratitude for all of those that help make this program, this project happen each year, and to all of the lovely artists. This is always one that we really, really look forward to recognizing. It's kind of, for me at least, it's definitely the joyful part of our council meetings every year. So I wish I was there to take a photo in person with you all. And please do leave a calendar for me at the desk and for Councilmember Gilman. I know he'll want one too. But thank you so much. Really, really a joy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. First of all, congratulations to all of you for being featured in this calendar. As the Mayor Pro Tem said, we look forward to when you come back every year to see the wonderful pieces of art. I am going to call one out specifically, though, which is Don't Let the Water Run by Morgan Schaefer from Jefferson Middle School. Not only because it's October and it happens to be my birthday month, but it is a very simple message, right, that we were all taught since we were children. Just don't let the water run. So make sure you turn it off when you're brushing your teeth, right? So, yeah, I think it's a simple message and it looks great. So congratulations and happy to take that photo now. Okay, so that takes us, thank you all again, have a good night. So that takes us to our next agenda item, item 2B, which is also a special recognition proclamation recognizing October as Walk to School Month. And here to present this evening is Carrie Wilson from our Walk and Roll Supervisor at Intercity Transit, and Patrick Murphy, the Superintendent of Olympia School District. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Wilson, and I supervise Intercity Transit's Walk and Roll program. Our mission is to increase independence, improve safety, and inspire a healthy lifestyle by making walking, biking, rolling, and riding public transit more accessible to people in our community. This school year, we're once again partnering with the Olympia School District to help organize walk and roll to school events. These events increase safety, build community, reduce traffic congestion, and improve the air quality around schools by encouraging families to consider walking and biking to school instead of driving. It also provides students an opportunity to learn and practice pedestrian safety skills and to build some physical activity into their day. This year, we are supporting McKinney, Centennial, Garfield, and Pioneer Elementary Schools. We always want to recognize the support that we get from the Olympia Police Department, Olympia Fire Department. I'm sure you see some of them in the photos up there. Having them come out to the events makes them extra special for the students and families. I also want to thank the City of Olympia for continuing to work on making Olympia a more bike and pedestrian-friendly city. And as always, we invite all the City Council members to come out to join us for Walk and Roll to School events. And I'll hand it over to Superintendent Murphy.
Thanks, Carrie. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I just want to start by saying thank you for your thoughtful deliberations about everything that impacts our schools and funding. I want to thank you for recognizing our students and their families and their artists and giving me the opportunity to talk about Walk to School Month. I'm proud to be here tonight to help recognize Walk to School Month. It's a wonderful partnership between the city and Intercity Transit and the Olympia School District. Our board approved a similar proclamation earlier. Several of our elementary schools, as was mentioned by Carrie, participate in the Walk and Roll program. I've walked with students to school, and having police officers and firefighters there is just awesome. We've also partnered with the Thurston Regional Planning Council over the past few years to create school walking routes that are posted on our website and copies of maps. We have a wonderful support in our community in our last capital levy that we've talked about with City Manager Bernie, and we have money set aside to improve our biking and walking routes, and we're going to be working collaboratively on that. So I'm very grateful for that. And lastly, it's early in the school year, and it's always a good time to remind everybody to, when you're driving a car around schools, slow down, observe those speed limit signs when driving in and around our schools. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent, and thank you both. So why don't we actually read the proclamation? Because public hearings always, throw me off a little bit. And Carrie, you were looking at me like, Mayor, are you going to read it? So yes, we will do that now. Councilmember Madrone.
Whereas walking and rolling to school can build activity into a child's daily routine, improving health and school performance, and whereas walking and rolling instead of driving students to school in private vehicles can help us reach greenhouse gas reduction targets in the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, and whereas the City of Olympia passed a resolution to achieve a goal of net zero emissions by 2040 in coordination with the Olympia High School Climate Action Club, and whereas the City of Olympia conducted an analysis of how to do that and found that we must reduce vehicle miles traveled significantly between now and 2040, and whereas the City of Olympia constructs sidewalks, enhanced crosswalks, and neighborhood pathways to help students safely walk and roll to school, and whereas the City of Olympia adopted the Transportation Master Plan, which prioritizes sidewalk and enhanced crosswalk projects based on how close they are to destinations like schools, parks, and transit stops, and whereas members of the Olympia Police Department and Olympia Fire Department join Olympia youth in walk and roll to school events, and whereas the city's street safety plan prioritizes the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists, and whereas in the month of October, youth, family members, and community leaders around the world are joining together for walk and roll to school events. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Olympia City Council hereby proclaims the month of October 2024 as Walk to School Month in the city of Olympia and encourages families, school employees, and community leaders to show children that walking and rolling is fun, safe, and a healthy way to get to destinations in their neighborhoods, whether they are schools, parks, or other places. Community leaders can, when driving, contribute to a culture of pedestrian safety by slowing down, especially in school zones, and by stopping for pedestrians who are trying to cross the street. Signed in the city of Olympia, Washington, this 15th day of October, 2024, Olympia City Council, Dante Payne, Mayor.
Okay, so any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, I want to make sure Mayor Pro Tem Nguyen, I can't see her.
Just joy and gratitude. No comments here. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Well, I'll just say thank you all so much for coming back each year for this proclamation. It's a routine one, and it's simple, but it also is very important in terms of safety for our community, especially as we start to get the nicer weather, right? It's a good reminder to put those signs out in our neighborhoods to get our drivers to slow down, to watch out for our little ones, which I so appreciate. So thank you for coming back, and happy to present you with the proclamation. And we didn't plan on it, but why don't we get a photo? Because this one's an important one. Thank you all so much. Have a good night. Okay, so that takes us to public comment this evening. Looks like we have a few people signed up in chambers this evening. So just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. Unlike the public hearings this evening, you do have 2 minutes for your comments under public comment. You have a clock to my right, to your left on the wall, indicating that you have 2 minutes of time. There is a box on the podium here with green, yellow, and red lights. The green light indicating that your time has begun, the yellow light indicating that you have about 30 seconds remaining in your comments, and the red light indicating that your time has expired. If you do not finish your comments, feel free to email them to the council. And please refrain from referring to or expressing your support or opposition to a candidate or ballot measure at the federal, state, or local level. And that includes the ballot initiatives that we just had hearings on. Please refrain from weighing in on those during the public comment segment. And so with that, I'll begin with our first in-person public commenter this evening, which is Yona Mikowski. Believe she just spoke for the public hearing, so we will move on to Chris Tucker, followed by Alicia Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Chris Tucker. I'm the board secretary for Olympia Arts and Heritage Alliance. Thank you for all you do for our community to improve and enhance the livability. We know the council is faced with immediate and pressing issues and some tough decisions. I'm here about your decision regarding the future of the city-owned building at 108 State Avenue and your support for a museum on that site, a museum that will bring people together, be a setting for exploring history, art, heritage, creativity, and cultures, adjacent to the Olympia Center to make a civic block in the heart of our downtown. I hope you've seen this stunning booklet, A People's History of the Seven Inlets State Chess, written and published by the Squaxin Island tribe. Better yet, I hope you've been to the Squaxin Island Museum and Library and Research Center between here and Shelton. I hope, too, you've seen this and other great works by Olympia artist Mimi Williams. But what isn't possible for local residents and visitors is to see works like this, original artwork, cultural expressions, and historic objects in an accessible, centrally located museum. As far as we know, Olympia is the only state capital in the country that does not have a museum where this kind of programming is available. It's been almost exactly a year since Olympia Arts and Heritage Alliance, AHA, submitted our proposal to the city, to you. Our proposal is to create a museum for arts, culture, and heritage in the historic 1912 city-owned building, now vacant, that in the past served as Olympia's fire station and city hall. We asked for an extended lease at $1 a year with the city's contribution to deferred maintenance costs over the next 2 to 3 years, and maintenance agreements similar to those with Hands-On Children's Museum and the Washington Center. AHA formed more than 6 years ago to address the need for a museum in Olympia and because of the potential for this vacant building. Thank you for your thoughtful, heartfelt, and visionary consideration of our proposal. We are eager to work with you.
Thank you very much, Chris. So we will move on to Alicia Gonzalez, followed by, looks like, Brad Thompson.
Hi, my name is Alicia Gonzalez. As much as I hate public speaking, a lot of my friends who own businesses have felt silent, so here I stand to speak my thoughts and offer perspective on the Workers' Bill of Rights policy that you're considering. I'm an employee of a small business in Olympia, and I have proudly worked for Annie, the owner, of 9 years. I've been promoted to lead esthetician, and I train any new esthetician hired fresh out of aesthetic school. It takes 150 hours to teach a new esthetician the ropes. Annie invests $13,000 into training by paying them and me through this process. That esthetician will go from making $18 an hour to $100,000 a year. I feel really proud to work for part of a small business that invests into individual people in our small community. Investing in training unskilled new estheticians would not be possible if the policies you are looking at were adopted. We'd be forced to hire skilled estheticians requiring no training. Annie, my employer, has recently been able to start providing a 401k match along with health insurance. My employer is not a big company. She worked hard to offer this benefit and then asked me, what's the best health insurance I can get for you to have a baby? In 4 years, I've had 4 miscarriages and started the journey of going through IVF this year. Without her being able to offer me health insurance, I'd be forced to work for a corporation that could offer me that. I don't want that. The reason I'm here tonight is because it would break my heart to have this choice taken away by a city policy that undermines all we have done to create a thriving place to work. Please don't take away my choice to work for a small business. If you move forward with this decision, unfortunately, our community that I'm so proud to be a part of will be hurt, prices will be raised significantly higher than they already are, and someone will close their doors. Employees working for large companies with labor unions, many based outside of our area, are providing you with one perspective, and I'm providing you with another. A perspective of an employee who loves working for a small community-based business and wants that opportunity to continue working there. Labor unions can negotiate labor contracts for their members. Let me choose where I want to work as well.
Thank you very much. So that takes us to Brad Thompson, followed by Tom Crawford. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name.
Good evening, City Council. I was here last week and spoke on a different matter. I wasn't able to speak on the subject that I wanted to speak on. It was very busy. But first off, I actually want to say happy birthday month to you. We're birthday twins, and I'm an October baby as well. So I spoke last week I was here for last week in regards to the Bill of Rights and the raised minimum wage to $20 to $24 an hour. I wanted to take a moment to speak on an observation from last week. We had 2 very distinct groups of people talking. We had a very well-organized union group, and we heard from several small business owners. The biggest takeaway for me was this policy being pushed by the union will severely affect small business. Every single small business owner who spoke last week had one clear and direct message. It will hurt them if you pass this law. As you obviously know, small business makes up for the entirety of our downtown district. This will severely hurt our local economy and our beautiful downtown area. You will disincentivize small business from coming to Olympia. Many will have no choice but to uproot and move due to the inability to afford to pay that wage and still maintain. The only way to maintain is to, of course, increase prices to counteract the increased expense of workers. This is the base root of inflation. We will be right back here in the same exact position, demanding a livable wage to make up for the new increase in prices. This will not solve our problem at all. The other side of the conversation last week was all union workers. We did not hear from one small business employee. This tells me how heavily of an influence the union has here and is pushing this agenda. City Council is here to represent all of us. These union workers need to work through their union reps if there's a dissatisfaction with their pay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tom Crawford, followed by Shannon Cipher.
Trying to go high tech here, or medium tech anyway. Thank you very much, members of the Olympia City Council. My name is Tom Crawford. I'm here as a member of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Collaborative's Community Advisory Work Group. And I'm here to help present to you a letter developed by that group. I think we distributed copies of the letter to each of you. We believe that more financial and staff resources, along with stronger policy initiatives, are needed to meet the 2030 goals for the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, which you have adopted and joined with other jurisdictions. Though your climate staff is excellent, doing great work, we recently learned it will require a 7% annual reduction in greenhouse gas emissions to meet the plan's 2030 goals. This calls for significant increases in financial investments and additional staff. We support a dedicated local funding source, as well as actively lobbying state and federal officials to more robustly fund these efforts. We are not asking to assign additional work to your already overloaded climate staff. Members of our group stand ready to help you meet this challenge. One source of my commitment to this movement, one of the reasons why I'm here tonight, is my previous work with Indigenous communities in the Pacific Northwest. I also have children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, if you can believe it, with Indigenous heritage. From these experiences, I learned that we are guests on Native land. We must listen to Native calls, Indigenous calls, for strong and immediate action on climate change. So I believe the question before us tonight is not how much can we do, but how do we do what is necessary to meet this crisis and address this issue? If not us, who? If not now, when? So again, we stand ready to help you meet this crisis and find the resources necessary. Thank you for your time and attention, and others will provide additional information about the letter.
Thank you very much. Shannon Cipher, followed by Betsy Norton.
Hello, council members and neighbors. My name is Shannon Cipher. I'm another member of the Council Advisory Work Group, and I am continuing with more context about this letter. The Thurston County Climate Mitigation Plan is an opportunity to bring together all local governments to transform our communities. Unfortunately, we still see local government policy decisions being made that are contrary to the TCMP goals. The collaborative needs additional staff and resources, as Tom said, to coordinate across local and state jurisdictions to achieve the plan's goals. We also desperately need to be more visionary in our policy making. In facing this crisis, we can create a grassroots lobbying bloc out of Washington's communities, which are already organized with their own climate plans, which is unique amongst states in the government, the United States, to demand the federal and state funds we need to achieve our climate targets. We must not limit our public imaginations or ambitions. We can no longer deny that global warming is here and wreaking havoc across our state and country. I speak for myself now when I say the task ahead will require enormous public investment. We cannot depend on incrementalism and individual consumer choices to achieve these targets. We cannot ask people to use less power during hotter summers or colder winters. We need to achieve a 45% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. While 40% of our emissions currently come from transportation, Washington state legislatures and public officials should be working toward rebuilding and expanding our public transportation system in every corner of the state at a wartime pace. And I believe Olympia should be one of the cities building these vehicles, from electric streetcars, trams, to monorails. Let's make Olympia the hub of this new industry and heart of our greenhouse gas reductions. Thank you all for your time, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Betsy Norton, followed by Laura Christensen.
Hi, I'm Betsy Norton. I'm a member of the Black Hills Audubon Society Conservation Committee, and I'm speaking as the third part of the group from TCAT. The Thurston Climate Mitigation Collaborative's letter ends with this: the people alive today will be remembered by future generations for what we did and did not do to address climate change. Let us be remembered for fighting climate change and securing for the children of tomorrow a world better than how we found it. Let us be remembered for winning the earth back. The Community Advisory Work Group members stand ready to support you in acting with courage and boldness to meet this critical moment in history. The letter was signed by 11 of the 13 members of the Community Advisory Work Group. It was also signed by 6 organizations: the League of Women Voters of Thurston County, Olympia Indivisible, Restoring Earth Connection, South Sound Sierra Club, the Thurston Climate Action Team, and my group, the Black Hills Audubon Society Conservation Committee. The Audubon Society at all levels has made climate change a major focus of our conservation efforts because birds are under siege. North America has lost more than 3 billion birds since 1970, and that number is rising with every wetland that's paved over, every season of severe drought, and every foot of shoreline habitat lost to sea level rise. The only way we can slow down climate change is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and increase carbon sequestration. This is not business as usual. We call on the City of Olympia to take the action needed to meet the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan commitments for the sake of the current and future generations of all species on Earth. Please act now on climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Laura Christensen, followed by Arthur Gonzalez.
Good evening. My name is Laura Christensen. I'm an organizer with local United Food and Commercial Workers, Local 367. We represent over 7,000 members over 6 counties, and I was a retail worker for over 10 years. I just want to address some of the misinformation and rumors that have been spread in the Olympia community in the past month, and our coalition partners, and we have no desire to injure small business. We don't want to have any of them shut down. And we're seeking to build a stronger community that benefits all of us, small businesses included. Myself and my coworker Michael over here are eager to open dialogues with small businesses, and we'd be happy to set up one-on-one conversations with anyone interested. So just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Arthur Gonzalez, followed by Mac Newville.
Hello, my name is Arthur Gonzalez. I've worked retail, hospitality, just general service industry pretty much my whole life. Part of this bill and part of what I support on this bill is part of the minimum wage. It doesn't just affect union workers, it affects everyone. It affects your city, it affects your livelihood. I've known people who, especially in more recently and increasingly as the time goes on, that they can barely even afford to basically live and eat and provide gases because their minimum wage jobs just don't pay for anything, and some of them barely support rent. I know a lot of it can be every time money gets involved, obviously, it's hard for everyone to wrap their heads around it, and it's always pros and cons, but minimum wage being at $20 would help everyone just be able to support themselves, feed their kids, feed their families, and help the newer generations get a life of independence without having to live. And some people, even people now, have not been able to move out of some of their parents' houses just because minimum wage does not support that. Our parents grew up in a time where minimum wage helped them buy houses, buy cars, support themselves, and some of them even start families and live comfortably and thrive in some examples. But I feel with the current push on the minimum wage, I think it'll help at least get us in the right direction to help the next generation and some of the newer workers find a place and start a life on their own.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gonzalez. And last, we have Mac Newville.
Good evening, Council. I'm Mark Newville. I am the president of the Amalgamated Transit Union, representing basically Southwest Washington, Olympia, Grays Harbor, and Pacific. And I'd like to speak in favor of the Workers' Bill of Rights because we have direct experience with the necessity of it. We continue to hire drivers at a relatively high rate. Almost all are in their second or third careers with already a pension, yet they can barely afford to work at inner city. One of the council members sitting next to me asked me why they are all older workers. I said that's because younger workers can't afford to work here. They need subsidy from either their parents providing housing and transportation. And even though it's $24 an hour, we've had, at any given time, we've had up to 7 drivers living in their cars in the parking lot. So we know how important this is. And it's not because we're trying to ruin the economy. We're actually, there's plenty of evidence that helping the bottom helps raising the tide raises all boats. History is with us on this. In the 1935 trucker strike, they had phony consumers for lower produce prices back in Minneapolis, and ultimately paying a living wage to employees helped the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Newville. Apologize on mispronouncing your name, Mark. Okay, so that is our final in-person public commenter for this evening. Do we have anyone signed up remotely? Looks like we do not. Okay, so that concludes public comment for this evening. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Councilmember Madrone.
For all those speaking to minimum wage, I hope you tune into our study section next week. It'll be the first chance that the full council will have an opportunity to talk with each other about the recommendations out of the Finance Committee. And I also wanted to speak to this letter around funding for making more progress on climate change at the city. There's always more we can do. We are coming up on a tough budget year, but I did want to encourage, especially around, the having a dedicated local funding source for climate initiatives. We did a few months ago, a year ago, approve the Transportation Benefit District sales tax, which is dedicated to pedestrian facilities, bicycle facilities, and general accessibility for people who are not getting around in cars. So that's an example of something that we have done that is a dedicated local source of funding that's going to help us advance the Thirst and Climate Mitigation Plan. So just wanted to name that, as you're looking around at what we're spending on climate, it's not just in that one department. There's actually lots of things going on across the city, so that's all.
Councilmember Parsley.
Thank you, everyone that's come here to discuss the Worker Bill of Rights. And Councilmember Jones absolutely right. The study session next week will unpack that a bit. To go to the letter we got from the Community Action Work Group, absolutely. It's a yes-and situation. We need to do more. There's no doubt about it. For those who are listening, I would love to sit down with you, though, and show you what the city has done since 2008 when it joined the Global Covenant of Mayors, to the resolution that is the inheritance resolution that the high school students had us do, the electrification resolution, the declaration of climate emergency, the work with our sea level rise, the adaptation plan, and the climate mitigation plan. Could we do more? Yes, absolutely we can. There's no doubt. I'd also welcome you to listen to the second half of this study session on our budget, because you've offered to help. We may need help from our community to help right-size our budget so we have the capacity to do climate mitigation, adaptation, and sea level rise, so that our capacity is there. And I know for a fact the other jurisdictions are going to be facing very shortly the same budget constraints we are. So helping these cities on their push into the community and communication on the value of whatever solution the community comes forward to help our budget. And we'll need the climate group to come forward and help us in that work.
Any additional questions or comments from the council? Councilmember Vanderpool.
Yeah, so I'm going to withhold a lot of my comments about the workers' rights until next week. But I will say that I'm glad to hear that there's an interest in dialogue. I don't believe that, in my heart of hearts, I think that small businesses and labor should be on the same side on this. I really don't think that we should be in a situation where they're against each other, because honestly, a lot of the issues that people are having with incomes comes down to larger corporations, in my view, and extractive economics. And I think that our small businesses, we should, in a lot of ways, work with our small businesses and with our labor to be able to work together and create something that's effective. But I will leave the rest of that till next week. But outside of that, I do also support the idea of doing a dedicated funding around our climate work, but and I do appreciate the volunteerism, saying that you're willing to help us in any way we can. But we really do need to find a way to have dedicated funding to do further. Honestly, I would support that, but we have to get the public to support that. So I will look forward to more of that conversation, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Madrone.
Thanks. I forgot one thing. I'm wondering, Jay, if you can give an update on like next steps with the 108 state process, since we have folks who are asking about what they can expect from us.
Yeah, thank you. I was actually going to raise my hand and suggest that. So I appreciate the comments that are here tonight. I've been having conversations with Mike Reed over the last couple weeks, and we are actually going to have an update out to the 108 state folks here within the next few days to less than a week. So stay tuned. There's an update coming to you very soon.
Great. Okay. Any additional questions or comments from the council? I can't see Mayor Pro Tem, so want to make sure.
No additional comments, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right. And just one last thing, for those who are interested in tuning in or coming in person for the study session next week, which includes minimum wage on the agenda, there is no opportunity for public comment during a study session. So you're more than welcome to come and observe, but there won't be opportunity for comment. Our next business meeting is October 29th. All right, so with that, that takes us to the adoption of the consent calendar. And I am tracking that we do have one pull, but are there any additional pulls? Seeing none. Okay. All right. So I am tracking that we have on the consent agenda, item 4F on second reading to approve an ordinance amending ordinance 7403 of the third quarter budget amendment. And we will pull that for separate action this evening. And so before we do that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 4F?
So moved.
All those in favor of adopting the consent calendar minus item 4F signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so I do believe we have an explanation for why we are pulling 4 items for a separate action this evening, so I'll turn it over to the city manager for explanation.
Thank you, Mayor Payne. Sorry for the confusion on this one. So item 4F is the second reading on a third quarter budget amendment that you saw on first reading last week at your council meeting. And in that, it was a line item in Exhibit B that's just an appropriation for about $437,000 for some new police vehicles. That one was not ready and should not have been included within this third quarter budget amendment. I apologize, I did not catch this on first reading next week, but I caught it during my staff report review this week. And I'm recommending that you pull that off, which you have a new item in front of you, I believe, from Susan that corrects Exhibit B. The chief is going to return to you in the future with an update on the need for new vehicles and some of the questions that you had for him the last time around. So we'll bring that back as a separate action in the future.
Thank you, City Manager Bernie. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, I believe Councilmember Madrone, you have a motion for the amendment.
I move to amend on second reading the ordinance amending ordinance 7403 related to the third quarter budget amendments to remove the line item in Exhibit B on page 4 of additional appropriation to the police department for vehicle rentals, radios, and equipment in the sum of $437,000 and to revise budget numbers affected thereby in the ordinance in order to permit further future council discussion.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Oh, yes. Okay. So, I'm happy to entertain a
Move
motion.
to approve as amended.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion to approve as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay. So that concludes our consent calendar adoption, and we don't have any other business this evening, so I will just move along to council reports, and I'll begin with the mayor's report, and I'll just briefly cover that. Yesterday, we had a wonderful celebration with the Squaxin Island Tribe at Squaxin Park in recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day. Was a wonderful celebration. I was happy to be joined by my colleagues here on the dais who attended the event yesterday. And Councilmember Madrone and I even got in on some dancing, so it was nice to do that. But nevertheless, it's always just such a wonderful time celebrating with them out at Squaxin Park. And so we just appreciate their partnership and relationship with them. I do just want to mention that for the next 2 weeks, the council, we will be meeting at 5:30. So I just wanted to make sure that you are tracking that for the next 2 weeks. One being that the study session we agreed will be beginning at 5:30. And then also the following week on October 29th, we have the OMPD board is meeting at 5:30 prior to the meeting. So just wanted to remind you of those two things. And with that, I will start to my right with Councilmember Madrone.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
I do have one thing to report, was the Joint Animal Service Commission meeting last night. We had several really intriguing conversations, so much so that we had our first meeting in 7 years that went to 9 p.m. We got to see their rollout of their community outreach and awareness. They are actually partnering with small businesses, and the small businesses are going to help us produce coasters for bars and restaurants that will have a QR code that says go to the shelter, you know, how can you volunteer, how can you adopt. Some of the wine stores and liquor stores are going to put little things around the necks of the bottles that says, for a drinking buddy, scan this code. It's quite the outreach. It's really worked for Pasco. As a matter of fact, it's improved their community donation rate, licensure, and adoption rate. So we're just about to roll that out. We had a conversation about our reserve policy, and it turns out that we have like 10 reserves. So we're going to simplify it into 4 reserves. They're going to be restricted, contingency, resiliency, and medical. So Sarah Hawk, once again, is coming to the rescue on how many reserve policies we had. And then the lion's share of our meeting was about our budget for 2025. We will be asking a little bit higher assessment. And I've already told City Manager Bernie that it's only $15,000 more. And those of you may remember that 4 years ago, the Joint Animal Service Commission was discovered to be running off reserves entirely, and the assessments did not meet the needs. We as a group agreed that over 4 years we'd phase into full assessment. This year's budget, unfortunately, we put in medical, so we're still running off reserves to a degree, but we have another 3-year plan to make the assessments match what we're actually spending. And then we talked a little bit about the impact of the potential capital project, and then a staffing needs assessment as well as our building needs assessment should be coming in the next quarter. And that may impact 2026's budget. And all the jurisdictions will get the updated final assessment in the email, as well as our budget, which was very extensive, thanks to Sarah Hawk.
Thank you, Councilmember Parsley. Any additional questions or comments for Councilmember Parsley? Seeing none, Councilmember Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor Payne. A couple of items. First of all, last week at the Olympic Region Clean Air Agency meeting, we had probably the best presentation about our asbestos program that I've seen in my 13 years on the board. And so that's going to get clipped out of the meeting and will be put on our website as an informational video. So once that comes out, I'll send it around to you. I think the thing for folks to understand is if they're doing any kind of asbestos or demolition work anywhere in the Olympic Peninsula area, they need to be getting the permits from their city or county jurisdiction as well as from the Clean Air Agency. And so that's the summary of that, but it was also a really interesting presentation. A lot I didn't know about asbestos. And then also, it was cool to learn that the City of Olympia has partnered with Olympic Region Clean Air Agency during the Energize Olympia version 2.0. So we're working together because we have a wood stove bounty program. And so people are able to actually use both programs at the same time to retire an uncertified wood stove, get a credit from the Clean Air Agency towards their heat pump, and then also get the discounts through Energize Olympia. So it's a pretty cool partnership. And then my last item is a little bit sad, but also a joy to talk about this person and just to take a moment to remember firefighter Jack Seward. And I only do that because I served for all but the last 3 years with Jack on the Law Enforcement and Firefighter Disability Board, and he was the fire representative. Jack served on that committee for 20 years, and he made it what it is today. I would say we were talking about him a little bit at last night's meeting, and just talking about how the culture of the committee is Jack Seward. And like, we don't recognize every city employee that comes and goes, but Jack was a pretty special person. When I got to the committee, I had this feeling of, oh, okay, it makes sense. I read the law, and it sounds like we're doing our it's our obligation to take care of these folks medically and as long as they're alive. And to me, that was an insurance function. Keep the city from losing money. And Jack taught me that it's a people function. And so every single case there is about the person. And we write policies that help people take better care of themselves when they're dealing with health care. And we're able to do that in a way that meets the medical necessity in the law. It is efficient with taxpayer dollars, and it puts the patient or the client, or in this case the firefighter or the police officer, in the middle of the care, so that quality and continuity of their care is part of the plan. And that's all because of Jack. And so I just wanted to take a moment to give him a shout out. I learned a lot from him. And one of the things that people don't realize, we have a firefighter and a police officer on that board. Both of them take care of the 35 members from the fire department or the police department that are left one as their family. They're helping them with their insurance and their claims, and helping their wives care for their honorary partners, and so many things. And I don't know, I could go on, but I wanted to take a moment to just recognize Jack. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cooper. Just sit with that for a minute.
And that's why I'm wearing my Firehouse 5 sweatshirt.
Yeah.
So I forgot to make the connection.
Yeah. Any questions or comments for Councilmember Cooper? Mayor Pro Tem Nguyen.
Just, thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's a really important share, and a little, tied to business, but also just a little bit of a break, and in recognizing what a big loss that it is for a lot of people, and the humans behind the work that we all do, right? Whether that's boards or on council or whatever it is, and people we get to interact with, and yeah. And if you, if you believe that they're there in the room, or can see this and are feeling it, then I believe it's true too. And I think it's really, there's something to be said about keeping people's alive through spirit and stories. And I just really appreciate you sharing.
Well said. So, Mayor Pro Tem, you're up. Do you have a report?
No reports tonight.
Thank you. City Manager Bernie.
I just want to report that I had a very successful trip across the country to deliver a vehicle to a son who's now relocated to North Carolina. I'm here running on adrenaline, but happy to be here, and just want to thank council for giving me a little space to make that trip kind of unexpectedly across the country. So happy to be back, but outside of that, nothing to report.
Thank you, City Manager Bernie. All right, so at this time, we will recess for a meeting to reconvene in 5 minutes for an executive session pursuant to RCW 42.110(1)B, which is pursuant to a real estate matter. No decisions will be made. We will meet for up to 90 minutes in room 423, and after which we will be adjourned for the evening. Good night.